Let's try to understand about network related commands on a Linux operating system. Just a heads up, this session is not about helping you understand how networking works or what network is. This is about how to use network related tools on a Linux operating system. Now, we all know every community has an address so that it can be located. So for example, this is my community and it is located somewhere in a city called Pune. Okay. Now if somebody has to reach this place, somebody has to reach my community, how will he or she reach? The person should know the address of this community. Now the way we describe an address of a community or a home, similarly each Linux host should have an address if it is on a network. So for example, you can be on different type of networks. You can be in a private network, okay, where 4 or 5 machines are connected to each other. You could be on a company-wide network, which is in different buildings connected via some LAN, or it could be a global company which has like offices in different geographies and they are connected via public and then VPN. Okay, could be any configuration. The most important part is that if a machine, if a machine which is hosted on with a Linux operating system is a network, it should have an address. Without an address, it cannot communicate to any other machine over the network. Now, where is this address allocated? Now, this address is allocated to the interface, network interface. Now, there are two types of network interfaces you will find on most of the machines around, and we all know them nowadays. The first one I would say is Wi-Fi, which is pretty common and everyone is aware of them now. The second interface most commonly used is a Ethernet. In short, I'll write ETH. These are the two interfaces through which a Linux operating system communicates with other boxes or other hosts on the network. Now let's try to understand how these interfaces looks like when we talk about addresses. So for example, I'll go to a machine and I run a command called ifconfig. Ifconfig is the command which gives me the information. Okay, so once I run ifconfig, I go up and I can see, let me make this screen a little bit bigger so output is clear. So I can see EM1. So here EM1 is my LAN interface. So as I mentioned, or Ethernet interface. Okay, so EM1 is Ethernet interface. So on this EM1 or Ethernet interface, you should have a network cable connected to the box, which once given an IP address is visible here. So I can say the iNet here 110.65.193.60. This is the address, or we call it IP address of this host. Now what about the Wi-Fi? So this box is also connected on the Wi-Fi and it is having an IP address of iNet here. Okay, so the clear difference is Ethernet network will start with E. It could be EM1. In previous machines it used to be ETH01, 0 or 1, and the wireless connection will look like WL. So WL will be wireless connection based on the port it is activated on. So this is the very first information you should be aware of. So if you have someone ask what is the current IP address, you have to give ifconfig. Okay, and based on your current IP address, which is allocated, which is visible under iNet, you can provide the information. The IP addresses can also be compared to the coordinates on the geographical coordinates on the earth. So for example, if we think about a house or a community on the earth, it will definitely have some coordinates here. So coordinates are, latitudes and longitudes. Okay, so based on that, there will be one coordinate where this society actually exists, which is mostly fixed. Okay. So in an organization, most of the times you will find all the servers, most of the servers are having a fixed IP address. But there are some IP addresses which can be changed based on their usability, and they are called dynamic IP addresses. Okay, so I'm just trying to make you understand that there are two types of addresses that that a interface will have. It will be a fixed or a dynamic. Fixed IP addresses will always stay. Okay, whereas dynamic IP addresses are most of the time allocated on the Wi-Fi network, as well as when you are on a company network and you move your places from one room to other room, you might be getting different net IP addresses. So it's not necessary that when you're working in a room 1, you'll get IP address of 1065.202.101, but when you shift out somewhere, you might get an IP address of 1065.405 40.5. So this is what I want to make you understand about network. Very basic thing about network. This is not about how IP addresses are located and what things are how the addresses are calculated. It's more about just understanding about your Ethernets. Okay, you have mostly your two Ethernets, the Wi-Fi Ethernet, the sorry about the interfaces. You have two interfaces, about like a Wi-Fi interface or a Ethernet adapter, and then an IP will be allocated to them when they are plugged into a network. And this IP can be verified by using ifconfig command. Sometimes these IPs are, I would say, changing, and sometimes they remain fixed.